What up, guys? I'm Nikhil,
And I'm Francisco.
and welcome back to another episode of Anime Hub. Now, before we start, we'd just like to announce that we have a subreddit as well as we've started posting more on Apple or iTunes. So, if you have any connections there, you have people that actively use iTunes or iTunes podcasts, be sure to let them know. We have a subreddit as well. It should be anime_hub. Be sure to check us out on Reddit. If you have any questions, feedback, comments, concerns, feel free to post on there. We'd love to get some input from you guys. And without further ado, let's get started. So today's episode is going to be on Land of the Lustrous by Studio Orange. Studio Orange is one of my favorite studios because I love Beastars. I love Land. I think Land for me is my top 3 favorite anime. So Land hits pretty close to home, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, came out of 2017 fall around there. I haven't.
Wasn't it like fall, winter? Like October, right? October, November?
Yeah, that's considered
Doesn't matter,
fall
yeah,
season.
but yeah.
It's been a while. So it was like almost 2 years since I haven't seen it. You saw it like a month ago.
I saw it at the beginning, the mid-December.
Yeah.
So I saw it December 15th or so, and then uh, I was sad after the first season that they didn't continue it, so I read a little ahead, not gonna lie. But I'm excited to see where they go with it. I have a lot of things I want to talk about the first season, though. There's a lot to unpack there for sure.
Yeah, it was really good season. Out of that one, it's like Made in Abyss, Land of the Lustrous, my favorite ones for 2017. Land of the Lustrous was really different. I mean, obviously, you have the whole CGI 3D mix with 2D animation deal going, and like they're like one of the only folks that have actually done that justice. So that's really fun. It's really pretty. I'm rewatching it right now. I came here. I left up at the last. I need one more episode 12, and after that I'll be done. I'm caught up. So I kind of know where the anime leaves off. So that's good because I've also read ahead. I've read the manga. Obviously, I feel that the anime does a whole lot better. The manga isn't all too clean. The artwork isn't
The
the
artwork is
best.
not good, but
Yeah, it
I
just
think that's what makes Land of Lustrous different because I feel like the story is what
oh yeah, it carries it hard.
drives it a lot. I don't know. I think Studio Orange though did it justice. The storytelling, the design, and the what's it called CGI. It's not even
It's
CGI.
like 3D animation,
The animation,
something
yeah, the
like that.
animation's beautiful. I think the animation's like, oh, I love the animation so much. It really like accentuates who they are because they're rocks, right? They're not like
Yeah, they're
people,
minerals. They're gems.
and like it kind of like it really brings to light their gem features, which I think is really
Cause
cool.
it makes them feel otherworldly, you know? Like they're not
I mean, they're not people,
they're
so
not
yeah,
people, so they don't mix with anything that's living.
yeah, exactly. So obviously, in Land of the Lustrous, the CGI and the animation is beautiful, but I think what drives it a lot is the story. And something that I wanted to start off with, and it's a few questions, but it kind of goes back to this concept. So, for those who are not familiar, I wanted to talk about Theseus' ship. Now, that Theseus' ship is a paradox where when you remove, on Theseus' ship, they removed a plank of wood, and every time they did that, the question became, and they would replace it with something else. Now, the question became, every time you remove something and you replace it, is it still the same ship or is it different? And the Theseus' ship is a big paradox throughout the entire show because we see that with Foss and how she replaces a lot of her body and herself, but then the question remains, is she still the same person? And Theseus' ship is a very, very important paradox throughout the entire show. And it's still a question that I think we have yet to really get answered because, again, it's a very philosophical show. There's a lot of moving parts, and we haven't even gotten to the next season yet. So there's a lot more to explore. But I thought it was a very interesting conundrum that Foss was a perfect representation of this, where she thought she was weak for most of it, and she was. And in order to get stronger, in order to get better, in order to protect the people or the beings she cared about, she had to remove a lot of herself in order to become someone new. But the real question remains, is she still the same person or is she someone totally different? Is she Foss or is she like not Foss anymore? Which is really weird to say, but
Yeah, Foss is like an amazing character. She carries it. The voice actress actually carries the show for the first 3 episodes because the first 3 episodes are massive info dumps into everything that we attempt to find out. I think it was episode 4 there we learn about the splinters that what they are because there's like 3 main groups of species of sentient.
by the way, all those three main groups represent the human.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Um,
splinters of humanity.
yeah, one's the gems or bones,
Mhm.
the admirabilis, I think is that how you say it, are the flesh, and the lunarans are the soul or the mind. That was my perception of it when I watched the
They've
show.
also they definitely said that too. I remember for sure. I think the person who said it was the king for the sea people,
The queen.
the queen.
But then again, like again, they're not really. One of the coolest things I think about Land of the Lustrous is there's no gender, right? So
Yeah.
I have actually, when I was doing research for the show, I saw a few different takes on it where a lot of people said, "Oh no, Foss is a young boy. He's not a young girl." But then some people said, "Foss is a young girl, not a young boy." I thought that was really interesting because these gems have no solid gender. So there's nothing to really play off of, if that makes sense. So even though there are scenes, obviously, where it may look weird to us, in reality, there's really nothing weird about that. They're just rocks,
Yeah, they
which I
are.
think is really cool. They're like almost gender fluid, if you want to say that. There's no gender to assimilate them with.
It's really cool. It's very androgynous. It's more androgynous within the manga, and like for obvious reasons in anime, they were like more feminine because that sells. So that's why they made the change. That's why whenever I see Foss, I have a difficult time not addressing Foss as a she. But within the show, every single character makes a good point of saying them or they,
Yeah, they
whenever they're
never say
referring.
she or he,
No, they
and
say
it's
Aniki though, but that's like
that's different. I think that's like a pet term. I don't think it's meant to be taken literally,
yeah,
but I thought that was a really cool concept that Lana Lustrous did really, really well.
yeah, for
That
sure.
I think a lot of anime or a lot of forms of media kind of struggle to do. So I personally love that part. I think that they really knocked it apart out of the park with that, and it kind of brings it back to the point of like that they're not human, right? They're just bones. They're gems, but they're a representation of human bones. They're not. They're a part of a greater whole. And again, you could actually relate this back to Theseus' ship as well, where you remove the three, and are they really one? Are they like really like? Are they supposed to be one?
I mean, I know I read a bit like into the manga, but I'm gonna try like avoid saying anything to do with it for obvious reasons.
Yeah, let's just stick with
Like,
what we have now.
yeah, what we have in the anime, which is pretty good. But yeah, it's really cool that like the king or the adamantium when they were speculating, and I really love how the minerals. This is a really smart intentional design by the author that makes it that the gemstones or like Foss and her people, whenever they lose a piece of themselves, they lose some memories.
Once again, I think it goes back to Theseus' ship, right?
Yeah,
This
that's the
whole
biggest part.
this whole concept focuses on that part. Like after you keep removing it, you keep removing it. At what point will it become someone totally different?
Narratively, I thought it was really cool because Foss is the youngest, and it's something that you pointed out that it was a coming of age story, which I didn't get at first because like they said 300 years old, and I just didn't realize she's still the youngest
Oh
because they're
yeah,
effectively immortal. But
yeah.
300 years is a pretty long time. But deal with Foss was something really cool is that whenever she lost a big piece of herself, and there was a slight info dump, the other character said, "Oh, you can just go to this location," and then Foss responds with, "What is that?" Right? Which was a surrogate for the viewers themselves, or us that we didn't actually know, so they had to go and explain it.
Yeah, Foss was like the viewer
Yeah,
in
like
a sense.
whenever the author took the opportunity to build into this memory thing into their biology, and that when the author decided to take away something from Foz and then eventually replace it with some other mineral, that was a good opportunity for her to explore
Which I think is
and ask
interesting
questions.
because you bring up the point of like every time they remove themselves, they lost a piece of their memory,
Yeah,
right? But then every time Foz gained something new, she also gained a new identity, new memories, new something new about that with the gold, with the legs, the new legs. Every time that happened, she became someone different. And so again, like that the thesis to ship paradox plays very heavily with Land of Lustrous because the whole paradox is at what point will she become a totally different person? And but Foss and the entirety of Land of Lustrous chase this sense of enlightenment. I think we talked about this fairly recently. But in Buddhism, Hinduism, those are two very big concepts of this. But there's a cycle of rebirth in Hinduism, for example. Uh, you don't. There's no hell, quote unquote, but there is. Rebirth is considered hell in Hinduism, and you're essentially living in hell. And to attain enlightenment, you have to attain a certain level of intellect, knowledge, or you have to be able to like kind of like look into yourself and see a greater being. And in Buddhism, I think it's a very similar concept where you have to like look into yourself to achieve enlightenment, to realize that humanity is just humanity and what you want is something greater than that. And Foss is like the perfect embodiment of that. And her losing pieces of herself and then changing herself constantly, it's like she's chasing that form of enlightenment that she's looking for.
Do you think whenever she's losing a piece and getting a piece, like that's her reincarnation? Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, 100%. Because she's like getting reborn each time she does that. She
Yeah,
becomes a different person
because
each
she loses
time.
her memories too, so that like that goes into the fact that like in reincarnation you don't remember your past self very well,
Exactly,
and the
yeah.
fact that she's like actually losing memory, she doesn't remember who she was in
Yeah,
the past.
exactly.
So that's really well fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that we can actually see this in an animation because like we live in the West, so for most of us it's like Christian stuff, which can get pretty cool sometimes. I don't mean like who doesn't like watching the devil and like the big G. I like the whole Buddhism stuff for once to actually be seen in an animation.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think Eastern philosophies and Eastern religions are definitely we don't get as much in the West Coast or the
Yeah.
West in general. And um I'm culturally from the East
Mm.
and my heritage is from the East. So seeing it like live almost or seeing it in like an anime to me was incredible because it was like seeing a part of my culture animated in a way that people could actually kind of understand.
Do you think they did a
So
good
that was
job?
incredible. I think they did a pretty good job. It's really, again, the whole concept of reincarnation is very, very hard to explain morally, I think, because like a lot of people don't really get it. And if you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. It's a very like hit or miss thing. There's no in the middle for reincarnation, in my opinion, honestly. And I think in Land of the Lustrous, they did it really well because they also tied in Thesis paradox. They tied in the question of enlightenment and mortality. They brought all of that in, and they kind of showed how Foss was being reborn every time she gained a new element, and she was never really the same person.
And it was super subtle too.
It was very small things like when she got the gold, when she got the new legs. Every time that happened, she just became someone different.
Yeah, it was like in the first episode. I'm sure it was Diamond or it was I think one of the characters their name is Diamond. I think it was her that said this. It's like us gem creatures. We can't change for obvious facts that they're like one mineral and they can't change as a person. But Foss is the only person within the show that has shown the capability of changing both like externally and then internally.
Which is
So
really
out
important.
of everyone, I know I've mentioned this, but I feel like out of every single character in roster that they have, Foss is the only one capable of achieving enlightenment.
Yeah, because everyone's stuck in their
Yeah.
current ways, but Foss wants to do more. And without, I don't want to spoil what's to happen after the first season, and I don't want to say what's going to happen, but it's proven later that she really is the only one. I think I'll leave it at that for the quote unquote spoilers. I don't want to say anything. It's hard, but there's a certain event that really like made me understand why Foss really was the only one. But when season 2 comes out, we'll talk about it anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, there hasn't been any announcement yet, but
It's gonna come out. Season 2. Lana Lustrous is amazing. But yeah, so and Foss is a really really unique character, I think, because she's really weak and she knows it.
yeah,
And her powers never bring her satisfaction. And even when she gained new powers,
new powers.
she never found satisfaction. So like Foss both changes and never changes if you think about it, right? Because even though that she got all these cool new powers with the gold, with the new legs, and she became more powerful. She was never content. She wanted more. She wanted more. She wanted more. And even though she's changing as a person completely each time she gains something new, she fundamentally never changes because she's always chasing something. And towards the end of the anime, I think we see that she's like trying to chase that enlightenment that we're talking about, or the concept of enlightenment. Like, why? What is the purpose of my existence? And that is the overarching question in all of Land of the Lustrous that Foss really is chasing, and I think that is shown really, really well.
Foss was chasing, like, trying to be part of the community, right? At first, because she felt like she was.
Again, yeah, she's always trying to chase something.
It
There's always a goal in mind, but like the overarching goal is she's trying to chase enlightenment. She's trying to like chase that.
She doesn't even know.
What she doesn't. That's the thing. But like throughout the show, we see that she's like she's trying to chase. She's always trying to chase something greater than herself.
Yeah.
And once she's become stronger than everyone, what's next? And then I think towards the end they touch upon that, where she go. I remember this scene pretty clearly. I think it was the last episode where you see like the dark portal, and she goes to the end. She's like, "What's beyond that?"
Yeah.
And now she's like, she feels like she's attained a certain level of like powerfulness or whatnot, but now she wants more. Now she wants to be able to like figure out, okay, what is the purpose of why do I live? Why am I being hunted like this by the
Lunarians, yeah.
Lunarians?
I think it was at the 12th episode where she decided, unlike everyone else of her like cohorts and all of her gem comrades, they decided to accept their sensei, which was Adamantian. The guy. He looks like the Buddha, right? Is that the aesthetic that they're trying
Yeah,
to give it?
yeah, he does.
Okay, cool.
He was created with the purpose of kind of taming them or like keeping the gems in control, but he didn't do that.
No,
Yeah.
I think you might be. I think that's what what's her name? Foss came up to the conclusion to at the end of it.
That was my okay. That was honestly my perception when I watched the show.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, then yeah, adamantium is one of the coolest things for adamantium. Within the manga itself, one of the first panels was him that he's almost about to pray.
I mean, yeah, like the first time I saw him, I thought he was like, the Buddha.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities between the two.
I think it was in episode 3 or 2 when he was dreaming and he was surrounded by Lunarians and he was like in a position of praying. And then he wakes up and he says that was reckless because he's about to actually pray, which is a huge. The fact that that's like the first panel in the manga is exceptionally foreshadowing to what his role is to the Lunarians and to everyone else.
Okay.
It's very similar to like when Hunter x Hunter back when like the first chapter was Gon meeting Kite
Yeah.
and then you never see him up until like an eventful event.
Lamau, yeah,
Like,
that's true.
Yeah, so it's like it's great that these authors can like give these tiny amounts of foreshadowing. Like they write it in there, and then they obviously have an idea of where they're going with their story, which is always good to know.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I think it's really well done, especially in Land, where they really kind of there's a lot of foreshadowing in Land. There's a lot. And there's a lot, obviously, to the viewer's inference of how they want to take it. And I think that makes Land a much more interesting show than, I don't know, a lot of modern TV, at least right now. I think there's just so much there, and there's so much different interpretations of it. My interpretation was, like, I saw, like, my culture in that show. So to me, that, like, stood out a lot. The concept of, like, rebirth, reincarnation, and, like, attaining enlightenment. Those are huge concepts I saw throughout the show, and I thought that were really cool that a lot of other shows just don't really or can't really replicate that well. And it's things like that that make Land of Lustrous.
So I have
really
a question.
What's up?
Does the number 108 have anything to do, and does that like ring a bell?
108, not that I know of.
Because I remember in episode 10. Remember when that big dog?
Yeah.
When the big dog came from the moon.
Yeah, they had 108 small dogs.
Yeah.
They were really cute.
I thought maybe the number might be symbolic to something, but I mean I couldn't think of. Obviously I didn't know anything, so I was gonna ask you.
Actually, I'll ask my mom about it because she definitely
Your
would
mom
know.
might know.
She would definitely know more than I would.
Okay, maybe it just means nothing.
I'm pretty sure it means something. I'm curious about what it is now. So I'll ask her and
Okay, cool.
I'll find out. But
Yeah.
I definitely think it's symbolic of something at the very least. I do know that in Hinduism, whatever you do, you're not supposed to the number that you would give or do or an action you would take that involves a number, aka like how much money you would give, it can never be a whole number.
That's
It
weird.
has to be an
Pretty weird.
off number. So it can be like 101 to like 109, but it can never be 110 or 100. So it can never be an even like
Oh, it can
and
never
a
be
number
an
ending with
even number.
zero.
Oh, a number just ending
Ending
with
with
zero.
zero.
Okay, but it could still be an even number. Like it could still be 44.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
just
know how that would play off
okay. So there's
of.
just a number with like if anything ends with a zero, that's like let's not do that.
Yeah,
Is the
it's a
idea?
really interesting concept. I asked my mom about it once and she didn't really give me a concrete answer.
It's
So it's
probably
something I'll look more into for the future, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. And I think that's maybe what Studio Orange was going for here. I'm not sure though. This is something I definitely want to
that's really
inquire about
interesting that
and
like that's something
figure
that
out.
was probably given to your mom by her parents, and then
Most
she
likely,
just
yeah.
never asked, and it's like something that just people keep doing,
Yeah.
but they just forgot the reason for doing it,
Oh yeah, no for sure.
which I feel could also go into some of the things that Foss does.
Yeah.
Like I know for sure Cinnabar, she forgot who Cinnabar was, but she just knew she had to do
Which is
something
so
else.
sad. I love Cinnabar so
Cinnabar is a
much. I
really
loved
good
her
character.
character. She is the definition of someone who is fighting not just to live, but finding out her purpose. I remember you said that no one in Land of the Lustrous could achieve
It's probably
enlightenment,
Cinnabar.
right?
Cinnabar's inciting incident within the
I
story
think Cinnabar
themselves.
is the only exception to that fact.
Okay, so
I
then
think
this is
Cinnabar can, because Cinnabar throughout the show, and I remember in the first episode when we met Cinnabar, I got goosebumps because she was like, the first time we met her, I remember the conversation. Cinnabar was like, I don't know why I'm living. I shouldn't be alive. And then that hit a chord for me personally, and it really made me think because that's not only extremely introspective, but it also hits on the fact that she knows to an extent of who she is. She knows her place in this world, and she did chase at some point something that she wanted, but she couldn't get it. And more than that, it's just her like kind of trying to figure out why am I here. And throughout the show, we kind of see that. And as Cinnabar becomes more and more forgotten because everything is through Foss's perspective. So we see like everything from her view. So we also, as the viewer, forget about Cinnabar as the show goes on, or at least I did, because of the way the show is created.
yeah,
Cinnabar became more and more, less and less of a concern. But like when you look back on it, she was easily the most powerfully written character in the entire show because she dealt with depression, she dealt with anxiety, she dealt with really human emotions that almost like I feel like so many people can relate to. And she dealt with like one of the biggest questions that I think everyone asks themselves at some point, like why am I here? What is my
yeah.
purpose in life?
There's a
And
bunch of really good characters, and like I feel like we can't. I don't think we're gonna get into all of them because like the characters
it's
become
really
more
hard to get into
pronounced.
each one because
Yeah.
we'd be spending like 5 hours in this booth just going
Additionally,
through
like
each
some of
one.
these characters have like insane amount of plot points within the manga later on. I know that there's like an essential character that hasn't been introduced yet into the
Okay,
anime.
let's
But like, that's what I'm
let's
saying.
not.
Like, there's like I can at least think in the current season. I can think of what I can think of Diamond, right?
Diamond's another really good character, a
Yeah,
really good character. Someone who like wants to do, someone who's really ambitious and wants to protect everyone but can't. They want to
yeah.
help everyone but they can't.
And they have this like weird relationship with their partner, which is Bort,
Yeah,
being a diamond. Okay, so like these gems are classified into hardness levels, which is there's 10 of them, pretty much. Foss has a hardness level of 3.5 or something, and something that was really interesting the first time that we met Cinnabar. One of the most amazing things is one of the things that makes Cinnabar really strong is like I think the mercury that oozes out of
the
her,
mercury
some kind of
poison
yeah,
that she can control
yeah.
is just obscene. It's very powerful. She has a hardness level of like obscenely low. It's like a 1 or 2. She has one of the
She's the
lowest.
weakest.
Yeah, but
She
she's
tries to
also
pick up.
in theory one of the most powerful.
Yeah.
So
She's the smartest one out of every single one of them.
I mean, honestly, like Cinnabar is arguably my personal favorite character because I related to her the most.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry, not her. It's
Yeah, we
I
keep making
related
those mistakes, and I think it's the anime's fault for making them so feminine. Because
maybe
when I'm reading the manga, like the transitions. Whenever I'm reading, they always refer to them as they, gender neutral pronouns, and like I forget the gender that every single one of the characters are. But like in the anime, they're just so feminine.
They are, and I mean that's obviously intentional. And
Yeah, it
I'm curious
sells
as to why that's the case, honestly.
for the. It's. I
Why
mean, they can sell more
I
merchandise.
don't know if it's just a sell. I think
I,
there's something more into
I
it.
feel like that's 100% it.
I
I
think there's more. But then again, like right, because a lot of people have different perspectives on Foss as a character. A lot of people see Foss as a young boy versus a young girl. First time I met Foss, she actually reminded me really heavily of Gon because
she's a way
they
better.
had they had that same like intellectual curiosity if you think about it, right? Which I thought was kind of cool. Like Gon is like the type of character who's like
Gone from Hunter x Hunter, by the
Hunter x
way.
Hunter, yes, from Hunter x
It's like,
Hunter. That is that's
thinking
not
like,
clear.
who is this gone person?
Yeah. But Gon has that intellectual curiosity of like, oh, like his purpose was obviously finding his dad, but in the Chimera Ant arc, I remember it challenged his like perspective a lot of humanity,
I
and
I don't think he was that introspective at the moment, but
he definitely gains more of a realization in that arc
I don't even know, dude.
because, dude, they killed his like mentor,
They
whatever.
killed his father figure, yes,
Yeah, that's huge.
but I don't think he understands what he did because after that, Killua didn't tell him. He just let Gon believe everything's okay, Gon. Don't worry about it. And then Gon, I'm hoping.
Right, but they went that. I think they went. That's because they went through different paths at the like in the shows, right? The shows were like different. They were at least catered to different audiences. I don't know. But
The deal with Gon is we don't know what he thinks of the situation yet because the author Togashi hasn't gone back to Gon as a character, so we don't know like his thought process behind what happened during the Chimera and like his actions and what kind of consequences they had. Because the consequences themselves haven't been shown up within the manga.
okay, I don't read the
Yeah,
Hunter x Hunter manga.
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think it's
like,
good.
but all I said is like the author hasn't gone back to Gon, so it makes us.
Right. I'm just bringing up the point that I
Yeah.
think their intellectual curiosity is very similar, and which I think, and I can see why people, for that reason, I can see why people think of Foss as a young boy. But in all honesty, like I don't know,
Because young
think
boys are always intellectually curious.
no,
That's
no, it just reminded me of Gone a lot.
um,
They're just the
they're
same mentally.
childish.
They're childish. There we go.
That's the
I think
biggest
that
thing.
was a thing for me. And then it really is a coming of age story at the end of it all because oh my god, Foss grows as a character so much in the span of 10 episodes. I just that kind of growth is like unprecedented, I think, in a lot of shows. The only show that I think has done that so well, in terms of growth and like character development is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I am still of the opinion that Zuko has the best character development in any show I've ever seen. But that's an argument for another time.
I mean, you just said in any show you've ever seen.
I've ever seen, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
So you
So
did.
it's my opinion.
Yeah, you added that amendment real
Uh,
quick. That was
it's
really
yeah,
good.
it's my opinion.
I think you're. I mean, he's amazing. Zuko's amazing. There's no doubt about it.
I don't know, and I think the fact that they pulled it off, with Foss was pretty incredible, and it really was at the end of the day a coming of age story, right? She was constantly reborn into someone that she didn't know. Oh my god, that Foss didn't know that Foss could become, which is kind of nuts to think about.
Okay, so we have. I mean, Diamond. I think Diamond currently, when I rewatched it and knowing what I know later, I think Diamond's probably my favorite character
Okay.
because there's like a bit of hate that I just feel from her for Board, which is really interesting.
I think the people you care most about, you find things to hate about them. If that makes
That
sense.
hurts.
It's true, right? Because like there's with all my close friends, there's always a little something that irritate. There's always something about them that irritates me, and that's just something that's there. I can't like I'm not gonna change that. But I think that's just because I know them so well, and like we're just that close.
What do you think Diamond hates about Board? Besides that Board's like completely
Diamond has
flawless.
I'm pretty in towards the 10th episode. I think it's between 8 and 11. In those 3 episodes, Diamond explode like she straight up said she doesn't like, I think it was either her stubbornness or like the fact that Bort kind of always shields Diamond or protects her, and Bort never lets her
Yeah,
become
for sure.
the individual she wants
Yeah,
to,
that's true.
that Diamond wants to become.
Cause Bort was always putting her down whenever she was trying to fight.
Yeah.
That hurts. I think Diamond has probably the best feat when it comes to fighting anything, cause she was the one who took down the big dog, big doggo,
Yeah.
during episode 10, which is when Bort saw like Diamond fight, which ended up like leaving Diamond completely shattered. No arms, no legs. But I mean, she took it down. Well, she at least sliced it in half, and after that it was pretty easy because then because once it gets sliced once, it divides into two, but it's not as strong. And then after that, it was just like pretty simple for the rest of the gems to take care of it up until adamantium came up.
Yep. That is true.
Yeah.
And I think Diamond's whole point. Diamond's a really interesting character to me because Diamond as an element is a very resilient, hard element, right?
Yeah,
It's
she's like the traditional Diamond that everyone.
actually I think she's untraditional. I think she's when she broke her arms and legs, she kind of proved to us that while she is capable of doing something, she's not as resilient as the others. And I think it's very true in Bort's relationship with Diamond, where Diamond kind of sees that, or Bort kind of sees that she has to protect Diamond because Diamond just can't take it. And
Yeah,
which is really funny
yeah,
because
Diamond's a level 10 hardness.
Diamond is the hardest
I
element.
think when we were younger, like in elementary school, someone taught me Diamond is the strongest like mineral you can find, right?
Yeah, it's
That was
one
like
of them for sure.
something that we were like drilled into to the point that even
Unpolished
Oda,
diamond, but yes.
like Oda from Material Oda, considers like diamond within his universe the element of diamond or like whatever the mineral diamond is the strongest and hardest element mineral.
Yeah.
Within our physics universe, it's not because there's something within it that is in comparison to something like board is not as resilient. And
Right, and I think that's really interesting, right?
yeah,
Like Diamond comes off as the hardest element, but in reality, when you think about it, Diamond has so many flaws too. She's like the brightest. She can't go out at night. She always has to be protected. She might be the hardest element, but when you think about it, she's also the weakest.
yeah, there's the definite flaws because I forget
Like
the
her
reasoning
flaws
behind it.
outweigh her capabilities. And I think Bort kind of realizes that. And she's one of those characters that just kind of can see that for what it is, while a lot of other characters, or Diamond herself, can't really understand why Bort is doing what she's doing, even though her flaws are just so high. She Diamond has though like bigger issues than I think a lot of the other characters. Cinnabar is another is like the opposite, right? She has a hardness level of 1, but she's arguably strong, like as strong as Bort, if not stronger.
She's also like smart.
She's also insane. Like yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she can probably take board. You think Cinnabar can take board?
Cinnabar. Yeah, I'm a Cinnabar stan. I think
Yeah.
she's my favorite character.
Board. I have something
So
about board and the attitude that board has. It's just really obnoxious. It really hurt.
actually, I don't think it's obnoxious at all. I think it's so sweet because if you think about it, right, Bort just cares about Diamond that
She
deeply.
does, and I took a soft spot on episode 10 after she like beat the dog, because they both admitted that I think it was Diamond, the first person that said it, that it's the moment that something that you love is slightly taken away from you or like put distance away from you, you realize how much you love them.
Exactly.
And then like
There's
Bort
a
agreed.
saying. There's like a saying that's like you don't know how much you love someone until they're
Yeah, for
gone.
sure.
And
Sounds super cute.
I think with Bort, it's
Bort's and Diamond
very
too.
true. Bort and Diamond.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for Diamond. It makes. I mean, I think I'm gonna try and read the manga after this.
Okay.
Just cause I mean it comes out monthly, so I know for sure I don't remember it, and I think I might start purchasing too, just cause. Considering the dog, I think it was on that episode when Adamantian said hi to the dog, and he was petting him, that like actually brought a tear to my eye, because it was at that moment that the dog disappeared, and then Faust thought, oh, the dog's just going back to the moon with the rest of the Lunarians. And it was Adamantium that said no.
He died.
He found
Found
peace,
peace.
and I
Yeah.
was like that was so cute.
That hit really hard for me because that is attaining enlightenment,
Yeah,
right? You found peace and tranquility within yourself in order to achieve something greater than yourself.
yeah, that was really strong.
And that's what happened with the dog. And with adamantium, we found out, like I found out at least during that episode, that adamantium has the power to at least help kind of cleanse almost
Yeah, it was good.
those like the sins away, and that was really powerful seeing that because it was like they were attaining enlightenment, and I thought that was
It
pretty
was also
incredible.
cool that it was like building up to that. The Lunarians always like had their hands extending to adamantium,
Yeah,
and we didn't know why. But in this scene, it kind of tells us that the dog was with him, and when he was with him, he found peace. Although I don't think adamantium did anything. I think the dog themselves just the dog found natural peace
yeah,
just by
no,
being next to
it
this guy.
definitely did. Adamantium definitely had an impact on it. We don't know what yet. We don't exactly know what adamantium's powers are, but he definitely was.
There was
He was
something was
able to
yeah
do.
something strong with their relationship too, because not only that, that was during this time is when we started to doubt adamantium through Foss's perspective,
Yeah,
because it was adamantium that said, Shiro, what happened to your hand? And it was Foss was the only one that heard that. Oh, we thought Foss was the only one that heard that,
right.
because up until this point we didn't understand the relationship between adamantium and the Lunarians
Yeah,
and why they kept attacking, but through Foss and Foss overhearing that, she realized that there's a connection between those two, which ends up leading her into her adventure, or like her decision at the end of episode 12 that you mentioned, that she's gonna try and speak and have a conversation with the Lunarians, just like she had a conversation with the other species from the ocean.
I think that's gonna be really good. I'm really excited for that because
Yeah, for her to
the
like go to the moon.
Lunarians. No, more than that, the Lunarians represent the soul and the mind, right?
Oh yeah,
So now you're speaking to like it's almost like speaking to a part of yourself.
yeah.
I don't know.
Something that was
I
really
think
cool
it's
about that
really
is that when the
amazing.
dog was passing away, he lost his shape that we saw him, and he just went to a regular dog.
Yeah, he became a regular dog, and then he
Yeah, but
just
when you think about it, in this universe, one of the oldest yellow diamond, she's approximately 3,700 years.
yeah,
So that means, in addition to the fact that gemstones had to evolve to the point from humans to be that, 3,700 years minimum has passed. So there's no dogs anymore. But yet the soul, well, the Lunarian soul of the dog, when he found peace, he reverted back to a dog that shouldn't exist in this universe at this time.
right,
At least how we know it.
right. So like that was that was
So that
actually one of my points of why I believe that the Lunarians were a soul or like are a representation of the soul because in my eyes, I personally believe that most living beings have a soul, if not all, right?
Yeah, I was
And the
gonna
soul
say.
can, in theory, if you believe in the cycle of reincarnation, the soul can never really die, right?
Yeah.
You're just moving the soul, you're transferring the soul from one thing to another, and I think it's really powerful and shown in Land of the Lustrous with the dog, with Foss, with a lot of different characters, and I think that's really important to see.
I know when I was younger, because like I come from a Catholic background. When I learned that dogs don't go to heaven, I was shattered. I was completely shattered. So I remember the first when I saw that episode, I was like, oh, the dog gets to find peace. I like that.
Yeah,
That's so nice.
it's really sweet. It's a small, sweet thing.
Yeah, that was really good. It was thanks to that app. You know what was really cool about this? Usually some like lesser shows would make a plot point of like adamantium and the Lunarians and not being what he is important for Foss. Traditionally, I thought it was gonna go down the route that Foss was gonna try and convince all of her other, gem mates that hey, maybe adamantium isn't the person that he says he is, or at least that he's hiding secrets. And she goes to Cinnabar and says that, or like she doesn't even say it, but Cinnabar knows that she's thinking about that, and she says, "Yeah, we know." Cinnabar like straight up says that everyone except you knew that adamantium is hiding something, but we both accepted that no matter what he's hiding, we will accept who he is and still love him, which was amazing because they just completely jumped over that whole tiny plot and decided to the author decided to do something entirely different. Now it's at that point that Foss has to realize, okay, so these people have decided that the secret isn't worth the love for adamantium. But I'm gonna decide that I want to understand what the Lunarian connection is.
Right. It's like following something blindly without knowing what it
Yeah,
is.
which just says a lot about
That's like religion in general when you think about it,
it is
right? A
religion.
lot of religion, a lot of I'm sorry if we're
That's
this is definitely entering a very philosophical
okay. So like
concept,
you
but
said, he represents the Buddha, right? And if they
I don't
follow
know if
him,
he represents the Buddha, but I
definitely
think that's
someone.
what they were intending, especially with like the
Okay.
way that he prays. Like if you notice, right?
Yeah.
He prays with his arm, with both of his hands cupped. He's holding beads and he's like counting each one while he's doing it. That's both in Hinduism and Buddhism, that's a very that you do that when you're meditating. That's a very prominent way to meditate
So
in both those
effectively, he's a
cultures.
spiritual figure.
He's a spiritual figure,
He's a
exactly.
very
And when you think about it, right, a
funny.
lot of them are just like blindly following a spiritual figure, like a lot of
I didn't
religions
even
do.
think about that.
And then Foss is one of those characters that are like, nah, I'm not gonna follow this religion because everyone else is doing it. I want to figure out why
I think
this is happening.
Cinnabar also mentioned. Foz asked Cinnabar, "Hey, Cinnabar, is this She asked Cinnabar, "Do you think the same?" And Cinnabar said, "I haven't decided yet."
That's why I say that Cinnabar is one of the only characters that could possibly change because Cinnabar is still kind of in that state of I'm trying to still figure it myself out. I'm still trying to impact everyone. Like I'm still trying to figure out why I should be alive. And Foss definitely makes an impact on her. I remember when in the episode where she goes down and she gets her legs cut off
And
by
the ice
the
floats. Dude, that was
Admirables.
so creepy.
It wasn't the ice floats. It was before this. It
Oh,
was I think episode 4.
oh,
She
when she
gets
gets
her things.
swallowed by the
Yeah, her arms, legs cut off, and then she washes up the shore. The first person that sees her is Cinnabar. Cinnabar drags her to a cove, and then Cinnabar sits down. She's like, "Why did you do this? What?" And then she turns and she tells her like, "I'm just like It was something along the lines of like trying to find the truth, and
No, wait. I think Foss said, "I was just trying to find a place for you."
yeah, and I think like her face expression right after that, like, oh my god, she just and I remember like the last scene in that episode was just Cinnabar like just I think he was either standing or
It
sitting
was
by
on
the
the
beach.
cove, right? It was
Yeah,
really.
she was just huddling there, and she was
She was by
you could see
herself,
like
alone.
visibly see the turmoil and the pain going on in her head, or and like it was outwardly displayed. I thought it was
You know, it
beautiful.
was really cool that there was. This one might be reaching, but a couple of times when Foss is saying in the beginning, because everything was about the inciting incident with Cinnabar, admitting that she just wants to be taken away by the Lunarians. Foss kept saying, "I need to find a place for Cinnabar," but sometimes the camera will pan out to the moon to represent that it's gonna like change to location.
But the moon doesn't want to even take Cinnabar
Yeah, the moon doesn't want to take Cinnabar, but it was also the fact
or
that
the
it was foreshadowing
Lunarians.
that maybe it was foreshadowing that Foss is gonna go to the moon. Like at the end of episode 12, Foss is like, "I need to go meet the Lunarians."
Yeah,
So I was like, I didn't even think about that because like the way that the directing made it seem that it was only talking about Cinnabar, but it was also talking about it was foreshadowing going to the moon,
which is
which
pretty
is
powerful.
which is really, I mean, like, and the rewatch, it's pretty nice.
Oh no, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, the rewatch is. I think it was. It does. It's a lot better than the rewatch in something like Madoka that we spoke about.
I think I th- I think that's because there's just so much philosophical content in it.
Yeah,
Like you can't I feel like you can't get everything from the first time around. It took me like I spent like an hour looking up like stuff on Land of the Lost, and I was like I could actually just write an entire like paper on how brilliant the show
and you would
is.
have a. I don't know if you would have an easier time than me, because like your background is definitely what's taking inspiration from Land of Lustrous.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of my background just fits in a lot with the
Yeah, so like
core
you can
concepts of
already
Land of
you
the
can
Lost.
your gears are moving a lot faster than anything I would ever be able to think about.
I got you.
Something else when I first watched the show and I like didn't know much about anything, I thought one of the biggest themes was like changing regardless of the consequences.
I didn't think about that actually.
Yeah,
To me, it was like always that reincarnation
yeah,
thing.
because you had your background. For
But
me, I was trying to think of it's like if I had to pick a theme, what would it be?
yeah,
That was like consequences.
interesting. I didn't really think of that. I also found it really interesting where in the opening. So I first of all I love the opening. I listen to it every time I'm studying because it's so like soft and
It's
it's
good.
like delicate.
My favorite scene in
But
the opening is like in the beginning. There's like the moment that Foss opens her eyes.
oh, when she's like she's like
She's
this
suddenly,
and
and
then
then
she
she
opens it.
opens them, and
Yeah.
and it's just everything changes in that song, and it's like I keep remembering that because it looks so powerful. But you know what the lyrics say, right? Or like a rough
There's
translation.
there's 4 lines that I was looking into last night while listening to the song. Unironic. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But these 4 lines struck me as not only extremely powerful, but they kind of embody what a lot of this show is about. And actually, this happens right as Foss opens her eyes, which is really cool. Now that you mentioned that, because I remember it was like it starts with like a sort of build up, and then right as she opens her eyes, it starts with this. So the lines in English are I cannot speak Japanese
Yeah,
unfortunately.
there's gonna be a rough translation.
But a rough translation is like days melting as they came to forget where they had planned to go. These countless seeds become the vessel for the dewdrops in early morning,
What
searching
the?
for the one thing that they think they are missing. And what's really powerful about that is when you think about it, right? Days melting as they came to forget. You're living in an endless cycle of doing the same thing again and again and again. They're not reaching a level like Foss is the only one. Foss opens her eyes when that sentence starts playing. So when that sentence starts playing, Foss opens her eyes, and I think it's really cool because in the opening it shows their first scene is her like she's holding her arms and she's falling through a water-like substance, and her eyes are closed, and then she opens them as soon as they say days melting as they came to forget, meaning she kind of broke away
Yeah,
from what I think all the other gems are going through. And then where they had planned to go, these countless seeds become the vessel for dewdrops in the early morning. I don't honestly really know what that means.
that's. I mean,
It feels very powerful. Uh,
I mean, let's not forget it. It's also translation, so we're probably like only getting what 70%
right, yeah,
maximum.
it's not super accurate. I wouldn't say this is super accurate, but I would imagine it would have to do something with the Theseus paradox. At least that was my interpretation. And then the last line was, I think, the most powerful. Searching for the one thing that they think they are missing. And the entire concept of Land of the Lustrous is Foss chasing a reality that or like
She's tracing the truth at the end of it
she's chasing the truth, but she's also chasing death.
without
And that
realizing.
that's that which is insane to think about, right? But when you think about it, every time Foss gets something new, she gets reborn. She's wondering why. She's wondering about the purpose of her existence, right? When you think about it, death is like the ultimate thing.
I mean, they
At
are
the out of
immortal when you think about it. The gems are immortal.
they're not.
I thought
They're not. Well,
they're
they
biologically immortal.
yes, but they can die.
Yeah, when they get
Um,
shattered and torn
and
apart.
that's a really important thing to note because I think Foss is trying to. I'm not trying to say she's trying to kill herself by any means, but I think it's more like she's trying to find out what death really is, and that concept of reaching enlightenment or reaching like fulfillment within herself. And I think death is a big part of that. And so when they say searching for the one thing that they think they are missing, when you think about it, right, the gems are inherently immortal.
Yeah,
The one
Cinnabar
thing
is
they're
looking for a
missing,
purpose.
the one thing they're missing that all of them are missing is death.
They
In
are.
theory, they could never die. And
Yeah.
I think that Foss and Cinnabar and characters like that are trying to chase that concept of death.
What do you think about the what are the ocean people called? The Ada whatever.
Yeah, they're a really complicated name.
Like
The
what are like they represent
Admirabilis.
Flash.
They represent flesh, and the reason I figured that one out was actually because I remember as soon as the ugly like slug thing went into the ocean, became a very beautiful woman.
She was like flaunting
Yeah.
her tatats. Her
Okay.
tata. She
Okay.
was.
Yeah, she was, and but more importantly, she was very pretty, and I remember Foss's reaction was like, "Wow, you're beautiful."
No, no, it wasn't
Um,
that.
yeah, she was like, she straight up
She was
said
surprised at how the transformation, but
she did say she was beautiful,
but
dude.
she also messed with her a bit. She's like, if only you wouldn't be so like flushy or whatever. I mean, there was a bit of banter in there,
Okay, yeah, sure,
but it was
but I
definitely a moment where we, as the audience, also saw it like, whoa, this looks because the whatever back when she was just a regular tiny slug or whatever, she mentioned that there's something in the ocean that looks just like you,
yeah,
and of course, like
I think with the concept of flush, I think it's getting to the point where like everything is connected. That was my interpretation,
the flesh has
because
the thing we have in that they can build off civilization
yeah,
with like repeated knowledge. It's something that they mentioned that they have the benefit of that. They have death.
flush carries knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh, and when you think about it, right, earlier in the podcast we talked about you mentioned how we were talking about the number thing, right?
Hmm.
And you mentioned how my grandparents probably taught my mom how, like, you can't use zero at the end.
Yeah. Oh,
Flesh,
that
like
might turn out.
wisdom of the flesh. It's hard to describe.
Flesh was taught the legend from their ancestors,
Right.
but they don't
And
know the entirety of it.
yeah, so their knowledge is in their flesh.
Yeah.
So the admirabilis, I cannot say that word. I'm sorry.
Like they're
I don't think they just represent flesh. I also think they represent knowledge. I think they
probably.
represent history as well. History, knowledge, and
I know she mentioned that her brother is very violent and aggressive.
yeah,
So they have like these almost sin-like emotions,
right. They
which
do.
is they're also the only ones that like reproduce just sexually. They
Yeah,
sexually reproduce,
yeah, yeah,
which is a
yeah.
huge benefit to them.
That's true. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. You could also
Yeah.
like think of it from a Christian point of view, right? Like sins of the flesh, I guess.
Now we're talking about sins. The one time that Adamantium mentioned sinners in the entire show was the second time that Foss had went through a transformation during the winter with Antarctic, which is like her pseudo best friend after she forgot Cinnabar, I guess.
R.I.P.
When she
R.I.P.
lost
Antarctic.
her hands, she was talking to the minerals, or she was talking to the ice floats, which are minerals from the bottom of the ocean. They have risen up, but have failed to become gemstones or whatever. We don't know the exact thing of them, but Antarctic site or mentioned that when she asked Adamantium about it, Adamantium said they're sinners and you should feel bad for them, or something along those lines.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
So it's really cool that it was at that moment that because they don't have an inherent thoughts, but they speak to Foss, and they speak to Foss's more negative emotions. In that
They do,
moment,
yeah.
Foss felt powerless in that she might have gotten new legs, but the rest of her body was still weak. So at a hardness of 3.5, and it was shattering. And Antarctic made a comment that if I wish that Foss's hands were as durable as her legs, which ended up making Foss think maybe since it worked out for my legs, I can probably replace my arms. So it was interesting that at that moment, the ice floats and the sinners were saying, "Give us your hands. I can take them away from you. It worked out with your legs, so it's gonna be okay." So because I'm also Foss, the first time I watched this, which I don't think it's a very strong connection, but the first time I watched this Foss, I always pronounce it as Faust, like the German legend Faust. Gautier wrote a play on Faust, and it was a doctor who made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
So effectively, I saw that scene that Foss was making a pseudo deal with something that she didn't understand. That was a sin, and in my interpretation, I was like, a sin is very close to a demon because a demon represents vices. So well, the reason she ended up losing her arms was just by accident. She didn't actually like give it to them. She just fell in the water, and then when Antarctic pulled her out, she didn't have any arms.
Yeah.
So that was really. We still don't know enough about the floats, and I really wish we can go back to just learn more about them because I'm really interested in what adamantium meant by sinners because I still don't get it very much.
It wasn't really described or touched upon that much.
Yeah, it was
Um
they yelled, they screamed throughout whenever they scraped against each other. To
they
the
did. They screamed to them and Foss could hear it.
Yeah,
And she was like, oh, what are they doing?
spooky.
It is spooky.
But that was the second time Foss went through transformation, and she got the platinum and gold alloy,
Yeah.
and it only like required her losing Antarctic to get it. So it was a it
For
sucked.
everything she's gotten, there's been a loss involved.
Yeah. In addition to like her memories being lost, it blows that I think one of the most interesting info dumps was when she was in the ocean and she doesn't even remember the flesh, but it was the one time that she does remember. The one word she remembered was humans,
Yeah.
and when she said that to adamantium, she said ningen, which it's humans. The rest of the gemstones probably thought they don't know what humans is, right? So they thought it was like some random gibberish that she came up with. But it was adamantium, the only one that actually knew what humans was, which is foreshadowing, saying that he knows what they are, to the point that he might have been alive when they were alive, and he might have been alive because the dog knew who he was.
Right, exactly.
And I think the dog, you mentioned it's the soul, so they're probably the souls of the humans and the souls of the life before
Yeah,
the
that was my theory
yeah
too.
the great
And then
catastrophe.
the sinners who were not reborn or not created could have been like the souls of the damned when you think about it.
Yeah, which is weird because the
It's kind of interesting.
Lunarians also, I guess, I don't know if the Lunarians like the situation they're in because they have the memories of the past.
If they're chasing gems, there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day, like we see them as the antagonist, the
yeah,
Lunarians.
Lunarians.
We see them as the antagonists, but in reality, they're not really. Like all three of them are all connected in some way. Not one person is the antagonist or the protagonist. If you look at it from an objective point of view, we're obviously looking at it through Foss's eyes. So for the viewer, it's very obvious to say, yeah, the Lunarians suck. They should just not do anything. But obviously, they're doing something for a reason. If the souls are supposed to be the Lunarians, and what if the gems are
Gems are
their way,
the bones.
to not just be like become human again, but maybe it's to attain, or to die. I don't know. I think there's more to it than that, right? So like, I just feel like not any of those three characters, even though when we saw the ocean people.
They mentioned their theory was that the Lunarians probably want to become human again, right?
Exactly.
But
And
that was
like,
their theory, and it's super interesting to just remember that information is very limited to both them and everyone involved. So we don't know anything about the Lunarians. So we don't actually know what their intentions are. But as far
right,
as
but like they've been portrayed consistently as the antagonists. I don't think
yeah,
they're bad at all. I think they're just lost.
that
They're
that
lost
is true.
souls. Like if you think about it, they're just lost souls.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
pretty
vying
accurate.
to come home. On that happy note.
That's a pretty happy note.
uh
I know that there's. I mean, we mostly spoke about Foz, and I feel like the one of the saddest thing about Foz was the whole that she breaks a promise thing, which always haunts me. I hate when they break promises, and the fact that she forgot who Cinnabar was, and Cinnabar said no, she made a promise, and the inciting incident isn't an inciting incident anymore, traditionally, and that it's not gonna go back to it, at least not for Foz. Now the Foz has like different things that she wants to pursue. It's just really sad to me. Do you know
and
what
it's
I'm
so
talking about?
sad. I don't know, when you brought up Cinnabar, I was thinking, right? Like in the first episode of the show, Foss goes to Cinnabar and says, you're never gonna be able I'm gonna find someone for you. Or something like that. She's like, I'll be there for you if anything. And then on the last episode, like, we barely even remember her. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with Cinnabar in the future, because I don't know, like her character just perfectly describes not just like mental health, but like depression and wanting to be loved.
I keep going back to
The
the idea
mental
that they're
aspect, I don't know.
gems and that they can't change. But whenever I look at one of the characters for these gems, they look exceptionally complex.
I mean, each of them have a lot of unique properties within them.
Yeah.
I think I
So
think
it's
what you mean by like my perception of what you said by can't change was they will blindly, and this was said I think earlier, but they will always just blindly follow a certain thing. Like with adamantium, they will blindly follow adamantium because they love him. But Foss is the only one who kind of just broke out of that and was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna blindly follow you now. I'm gonna try to figure things out myself."
it's pretty
And
cool. No, I think it's
I'm hoping that for Cinnabar it's the same thing, right? Because she's like, "Yeah, I don't know," and she's like questioning her sense of self and her mortality, which is in a way a very reflective thing of like depression, anxiety, of really negative emotions that she has to carry. And when you think about it, right? I feel like Cinnabar carries all the negative emotions of all the gems, which is just so sad. But like she does, she's the definition of just negativity.
she also intentionally isolated herself for the fact that
She
her
doesn't want to
place.
hurt anyone
Yeah,
else, and it's beautiful when you think about it. She's like, nothing she does is out of hate or out of malice, but she's doing it out of necessity, and it's just a really sad thing when you think about it. I love Cinnabar. I think she's my favorite character, and I really want to see more of her, and I hope that we do.
I like her red color.
Okay.
It's nice.
Yeah.
The green in Foss is also really pretty.
All the colors are very reflective of the gemstones. They're all. I mean, they're all their gemstones. So it makes
Of
sense.
course, it's I guess if you're into gemstones, we don't
I
nothing but
used to go to I
gemstones,
used to go to gemstone expositions with my mom when I was younger, till I was 10 or 11.
and then you just decided not to, or you just stopped. Like your
Oh,
mom
my
was
mom
just.
stopped going, so I would never go.
Yeah, I mean you're 10. That makes sense.
But yeah, I used to be really into them, but I'm not as much anymore.
Maybe we knew a bit of like gem. There's definitely something behind the gems that they represent something
I mean, yeah.
from their character. We just don't know enough about that. Maybe someone in the Reddit can enlighten us.
Who knows, man?
I mean,
Who
I would
knows?
like that. I would read it. I would upvote it. I like upvoting stuff. That's what I do when I'm on Reddit. But I think
I think that's about it. Yeah,
that's about it.
we covered a lot of really really heavy topics. So thanks guys for listening. I know that we touched on some topics like religion and a lot of philosophical topics in this episode, and
Maybe it wasn't enough.
maybe it was. We do know that it was a heavy episode, and we understand. We don't mean to offend anyone. We don't mean to call anyone out. In this podcast, we're trying to be as open minded as possible.
I mean, I like reading a
And
lot into it afterwards. It was
I mean,
it was
yeah,
a really good
that's
time.
I think that's the fun part about any really philosophical anime, and I think Lana Lustrous kind of is just an exceptional one for
It's a
that.
really good representation too.
Oh yeah, it's in my top three. I remember the day after I finished watching, I came to you and I was like, this is one of the best anime I've ever watched. I think it was. Remember that it was like 8 episodes in, and then I came to you and I was like, this is literally one of the best anime
Yeah,
I've ever
in the
seen in
eighth
my life.
episode, I think that was when she got her platinum and gold alloy. So you were like, all right, this is enough. It was like, oh, that was pretty quick, dude.
I don't know,
I
just
mean, it's good.
I
I
watched it.
liked it a lot. I
I
binged it too.
I empathized with it. I clicked with it. I was like, this is not just a representation of like, this is a representation of my culture. This is a representation of like what I believe in and a big part of who I am, and I was able to see that in Land.
And it's good. It's
Um,
good seeing that.
yeah,
Something.
it's
Well,
great.
most of the time is really good.
But regardless, we really hope you guys liked this episode. We had a lot to say about it. Very philosophical. We don't
might
mean to
have
offend
more
anyone.
to say about it. What if we make if there's enough interest, what if you read the manga and we talk about what's in the manga? If people in the Reddit at least kind of wanna.
Okay, yeah. If you want me to read I have read a little bit. I haven't read that much. I've read panels here and there. I've read the wiki. I don't want to read the manga because I think Studio Orange
Yeah, they
did
definitely
such a good job that I think I owe it to them to like stick with the anime. But if there is interest for me to read the manga along with Francisco, I'd be more than willing to do that, and maybe we could have another episode down the line of our thoughts, mainly focus more on a manga only Land of Lustrous
Yeah, because I
episode.
feel like currently the anime is like 20% of the content.
Oh yeah, we're not
We're not even in.
we're not even I read the wiki and I was like, wow, we are so far behind. We have so much more to watch and or to like get caught up on. But yeah, no, for sure. Definitely let us know in the subreddit if you guys are interested. Make a post. I'll approve it. Don't worry about it. If you have anything, feel free to reach out to us. Email us with any questions.
We have email. We can do that.
Yeah, hubanime63@gmail.com.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and yeah, that's it for this episode. Again, we talked about a lot of very heavy topics, and we don't mean to call anyone out, offend anyone, but this was just our perspective, so take it as you will. And we really hope that you'll watch this anime. I
We
think
did spoil a good amount, but I
okay,
hope,
well,
I
we
hope
did.
that I hope that anyone who has an interest would at least watch it.
we hope you appreciate it a lot more. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's it. Do you have anything else to add, talk about?
The anime does the source material justice. The comedy is elevated through the motions of Foss and Suri Orange. It's a very physical anime. And there's a lot of slapstick humor that goes into it that cannot be represented well in the source material. Additionally, the voice actress for Foss is phenomenal.
He's
For
really
the
good.
first 3 episodes that were very, very info dump heavy, she carried it exceptionally well. That's what I can appreciate on my second viewing. And besides that, I think I'm good, man.